All right, I think we're live.
Think
Hey,
so.
Carter,
Think so. How are you, Sahana? It's good to see you.
good to see you. We don't see each other enough, I feel like.
I don't know. I don't know. We see each other a fair bit, so but it's always
Yeah.
good to talk to you.
Fancy
I'm
seeing
never,
you here
never, never
again,
sad to talk to you.
especially on a leap day. Hey, happy leap
That's
day.
right. I know. Once every 4 years, we get this opportunity to have an extra day of February, an extra day of the year. So it's
And
good
that's
to
why we
get
chose this day to
on.
talk about zoning, because that's how mammoth of a launch this is. It comes once in 4 years, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. We're looking forward to talking about it today with everybody.
All right, so let's tee this up then. So joining me today, Matt Carley, our manager for all of the data products, but most recently, very pivotal in the launch of our standardized zoning product. And definitely the best person to be talking us through this is Matt Carley here and Sahana Murthy, head of products here at Regrid. And we do a lot of rollouts in products here at Regrid, but this one has been one that's been in the works for almost a year and a half in planning and researching, and finding an incredible partner in Zoneomics. A huge shout out to our partners at Zoneomics, without whom this launch would not have been possible for us. And thank
Absolutely.
you so much for working with us. We love them. It's been a great collaboration, a great technical collaboration, and a great business collaboration for us. And that has culminated in this launch that happened last Wednesday. We technically GA launched this product last Wednesday, and we are joining, each other here to kind of talk about it a little bit more in detail. So that kind of is really the agenda for today's webinar. Is we're going to talk in depth about our standardized zoning add-on to premium parcels product that went live. With that, let's get started. So
Yeah.
Carly, what is standardized zoning?
Oh, it's a great question. It's a great question. So what we did is we've launched a new product and we've called it standardized zoning because we thought it was important to recognize one of the key challenges that is present with zoning, and that is that it is controlled at the municipality level, right? Like not even at the county level, and certainly not at the state level. So there's state guidance that drives where zoning comes from, but each municipality is in charge of their own zoning code, and there's over 30,000 municipalities across the United States. Not all of them have zoning, but a good number of them do. And they all do it their own way. Some follow certain standards, some follow others. But what that ends up with is that if you're comparing properties across different jurisdictions,
Mhm.
you can have difficulties sorting out what is what, like what's going on. And that's not just a case of like differences between like Texas and California or Texas and Florida or Kansas and Missouri. It's between cities that are right next to each other in some instances, right? Even within the same county, the same municipality, or not the same municipality, same metro area,
Yeah,
right? But so we recognized a solution is needed, right? And
yeah.
we recognize this, like you said, over a year ago.
Oh,
Regrid's been looking at this, and so we thought it was important to find a way to standardize all this.
yeah, and it goes back to the $1 million question and value proposition in our line of business, right? Is so much of this is public data. The true
Right.
value is in standardization of this data, just
That's
as
right.
much as it was for parcel data, right? You can
That's
still
right.
get this at a hyper local level. You can go to, your local municipalities, get the zoning ordinance looked at, get all the information you need. But really, I think the biggest value in everything we've done here at Regrid, from parcels to zoning, is being able to do this at scale, which comes with
Right.
standardization. All of this is so disparate at a local level that getting this done at scale at a nationwide level with unparalleled coverage is really the true value here. And that
That's
was
right.
what we were trying to solve for, because we did have raw zoning in our base product. It's not like we never had this,
Right.
but it was not at the coverage we wanted it to be at. And then again, it was raw, so it's not standardized. And that is when, we started our quest of looking for standardized zoning solutions. And we met our incredible partners at Zoneomics who presented to us this product, which
That's
is
right.
unparalleled in coverage, in accuracy, and in depth of attribution. And with this was also a quest for us to solve for a complete land use solution. So I think maybe jumping in to kind of talk about our land use journey might be actually helpful here. Is this was
Yeah.
not just a microscopic journey to solve for zoning, it was actually a holistic look
It was a
at,
journey.
it was a journey at what do we need to do to solve for land use, because that is the most asked for um, data point for most of the use cases in the parcel data
Yeah.
world.
Yeah, no, and that's absolutely right. And I think that you describing it as a journey and as part of the land use journey is 100% accurate. Like that's 100% both appropriate. And it's kind of a worn out and tired trope that when you ask why did you build a product, well, because our customers asked for it. But honestly, you and I have both seen throughout the years and our years in this space that customers drive where you need to go, and what they need speaks, right? And so if you're not dealing with something that needs to happen with your customers, you're not really listening. And so it's true, like our customers were saying, hey, we need to understand what's happening at the property level. And so we rolled out LBCS several years ago, our land-based classification system, and that's all part of the problem. But what we realized in continuing to talk to customers is that wasn't the whole story. Like that very clearly and comprehensively, mind you, answered, what's happening on a property today, but it really didn't answer the question or give insight into what can happen with a property that is yet to be developed or redeveloped. And that's where zoning comes in, particularly municipalities, because zoning invisibly guides what is possible or what hurdles you might face as you look to develop or redevelop property. And so we recognize that that was key to determining, how do we have a true comprehensive view of land use and make sure that our users had the best picture to make their decisions for whatever use case they're looking to empower. We're not empowering all the use cases ourselves. We're just empowering them to empower their use cases. And so we want to give them all the data points that we can to do that.
And this was an evolution, one of learning even for us, right? So when we looked into APA's LBCS, land-based classification standards, which is multidimensional, right? So we have 5 dimensions. It was for,
Yeah.
We were trying to solve for understanding land use. What is happening on a piece of land, and it has multiple layers of context to it with the 5 dimensions. So, from ownership to activity to function.
Yeah.
And we were like, this is it, right? This is what solves the
Yeah.
problem. Except through the past few years and our own learning, we've realized there's 2 pieces to this puzzle, which is what is happening currently, right now, which the classification solves, and what could be happening there. So there's a now and future element to it, which comes with standardized zoning, and that's where you need zoning at scale. And there was some amount of solving for that with LBCS and raw zoning,
Right.
but then most of our use cases are at nationwide scale, right? They're working with multiple states at a time. They need to be able to look up and then get a sense of what the zoning is
That's
for
right.
at scale. So then that's when the standard. So I think what we realized through this journey is land use is a combination of 2 things. To get a complete view of land use would be
Right.
what is happening right now and what could happen. So it is LBCS, the land classification, plus zoning data put together. We now have what is a complete solution for land use.
Right. No, exactly. And land use is a big umbrella, is what we've learned, right? It's not just a simple classification, as it honestly has been in the regrid world for a long time, and really in the industry for a long time. And zoning was kind of this thing that
Yeah.
was floating out there, right? That was raw and it was very difficult to understand, and you almost had to be a lawyer, or a land use planner or an urban planner to understand what was going on
Mhm.
with the different zoning codes. I mean, some of us have learned, R1 means, residential single family. Others of us, like, we might as well be speaking Hebrew, right? So, you just don't know how to interpret it. And that's the case when you start dealing with, you know, 20, 30,000 local municipalities all doing zoning their own way, understanding it, to your point, at scale becomes very, very difficult. And it was a missing component. And we heard it as recently as last year at the ESRI conference, when customers would come up to us and our prospects would come up to us and say, hey, do you have land use or zoning associated with this? And we're like, well, tell us more about what you mean when you say
Yeah.
land use. And in some cases, they were talking about land classification.
And
And in
then
some
some
cases, they were talking about zoning,
Yeah.
right? So we were very cognizant of
Yeah.
that customer voice in our ear saying, hey, there's more to the land use story
Yeah.
than just classification. And so we're like, all right, we need to solve, we've solved for classification. We need to solve for zoning too.
Yeah. So let's jump right there. So when we say we launch standardized zoning, maybe we should talk a few minutes about what actually this product entails, what comes with this product.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's important because this again, we mentioned it. Our standardized zoning add-on to our premium parcel schema is a standalone geospatial layer. It's complementary. Importantly, it's complementary and tabularly linked, hard linked to our parcels. So they work both interacting geospatially, like you can do spatial intersects, or you can do hard tabular links to the parcel to determine exactly what you're doing. Now, why did we do that? Why didn't we just slam all the attributes into parcels? Number one, it's not really appropriate because you're talking like a somewhat less granular data set in most instances, to like it's going to be a one zoning area to many polygon instance. And so we wanted to make sure it was optimized for efficiency. And we'd have a lot of duplication of attribution if we slammed all the data into parcels. So we're cognizant of that. And we wanted to make sure that customers were able to use a comprehensive solution. And so we were looking for, how do we get to max coverage, right? And that's where our partners at Zoneomics came in, right? Like we did a pretty diligent search across the industry, find out what people were doing, including what could we do ourselves,
Yeah.
because we knew it's right in our wheelhouse. But we found that they've got over 6,400 municipalities covered. And it covers 87.5 million parcels, and it's growing pretty aggressively. Was the thing that I was really excited to see is that's not the end of it. I think what we saw, Sahana, is that they've grown like 1.5 million parcels in like the past like 2 or 3 months.
In a month and a half,
So
I think, because in December it was
right,
85 and now we're at 87.5. Yeah.
yeah, and I think when it's funny because like thinking back in the parcel world, I remember that when you said you had 90, 100 million parcels, but there were 150 out there, people would be like, oh, you really don't have very much, do you? Well, you've got a lot at that point. And with zoning, it's even more telling because 87.5 million, you got to remember, zoning doesn't exist everywhere.
Everywhere.
Like it's not like land use. You can do land class, or not like land classification. You can find land classification just by saying, oh, that's a ranch, that's a single family house, that's an apartment, that's a strip center. Can't do that with zoning. Zoning is legal, like it's enforced by an ordinance. So unless you've got a municipality or a local government enforcing an ordinance or setting an ordinance, zoning just doesn't exist. And so 87.5 million parcels,
Yeah.
pretty comprehensive from what we've seen.
Yeah. All right. And then, so maybe we should jump into a little demo so we can actually talk through the attribution that comes with it and the fact that this is a spatial layer. So this comes with zoning polygons.
Sure. Let me make sure I've got the right thing. I do. Okay. So let me tell me if you can't see my screen. I think you should be able to have it now.
Oh, I want to point out that we are actually demoing this in AGOL because this product
That's
that
right.
we last week is actually available through all of our delivery methods that we currently support for our parcels and other add-on data sets. So bulk files in every format that we have previously supported continues to be supported for standardized zoning through our API, through our Esri compatible feature service, like you'll see in this demo. It's also available at a county level on the data store, the Regrid data store. So if your requirements are more local, please go to the data store and see if we have zoning information for that. And then you will be on your way to getting it by yourself. We also have the layer, just the tile layer on our web app. So anybody using Pro and team accounts, you can actually take a look at that. It's kind of overlaid on top of parcels. And then once we do this demo, we can talk a little bit about how this has also helped enhance our premium schema, our base parcel data schema as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'll turn on the legend over here so everybody can kind of get a sense for what we're looking at. This is as Sana said, this is our ArcGIS Online environment of our feature service for zoning and parcels. Both if I click on the layers over here, if I can find my cursor, I've got both the Regrid standardized zoning product and I've got the premium schema for our parcel data. So both are there. The bright colors, the oranges, the yellows, the reds, the blues, the purples, those are the zoning polygons. So those are there. This is an area just north of Dallas, near if anybody's familiar with the DFW area, it's near Richardson and Plano. And I picked this area specifically because one of the things I mentioned it earlier about standardized zoning and having it standardized that's important is to remember that each of these municipalities control their own ordinance, right? So as I dig into a little bit of this attribution, you'll start to see why that matters. But as we kind of scroll around the map, you'll see, you know, the residential, the commercial, the mixed use, the planned areas, the agricultural will start to show up. But it's pretty seamless as I scroll around the map. You know, I'm not seeing big changes, and that's the key is this is themed out on the land use or the zoning type, right? Now it gets more granular, it gets into subtypes, which we won't touch on as much because it gets a little more busy, but it's there. But what allows you to do is when I start clicking on some of these polygons, and that's hanging up on me a little bit because I probably picked a nice big polygon, maybe. But what you'll start to see is that you'll start to see, make sure I've got my right layer selected. There we go. I didn't have the right layer selected. So you'll start to get the information and the attribution for the zoning. Now this is just alphabetical, but you've got things such as the different maxes, the max building height, the max amount of lot coverage, the max density that you can build to, the max FAR or the floor to area ratio, different coverages, setback information. Now you see some of these values are 9,000s and 5,000s. We did that on purpose because we wanted to make sure these were numeric values. And so the 9,000s and the 5,000s indicate either NA in the case of 9,000 where the field is not applicable, or there's something in the ordinance that's making it so complex to deal with that you really need to consult the ordinance. Now, an important component of that is that we do have a link to the zoning ordinance that we provide to the user. Where is
over there. No, you missed it. Just come down a little.
Did I go past it?
There, view.
Right there, right here. And that'll actually open up a link to the actual zoning ordinance so you can consult. And what I found in a lot of these cases is that even as tight as some of these zoning polygons have gotten, you know, there are conditions around the setbacks and the height restrictions and things. Like if you're within such a distance of a certain residence, you can only go to this height. If you're certain with distance within this type of road, you have to do this. So that's the reason you see that. So that's something to be mindful of, because again, zoning is complex, right? There's a lot going on, and it's legal as well. So we want to make sure you have access to the ordinance. So there is that link to the ordinance. As it's themed out, this is where the power of having the data standardized comes into play, because you're able to navigate from municipality to municipality, even within the same metro area, you know, and determine, you know, what are the zoning particulars that I'm dealing with. And there's the city of Richardson. And if I were to scroll just a tiny bit to the east again, I'd be in the municipality of Garland. So that's one of the key benefits of zoning. Again, we've got some information on permitted land uses in here that allow customers to query for kind of like what's permitted either as of right, which means I'm allowed to do it just because I'm in this particular zone. And then there's also some that are conditional, where, you know, I might need to go get some approval, or I might need to do something in a certain way, and that's going to allow my permitted use. So
I
Yeah,
just
go
want
ahead,
to take
Simon.
a second to point out that while we are doing this demo, every time we've looked up, a parcel and it's opened up that pop-up, you can actually see the attributes in the standardized zoning data set. So from permitted uses to flow to area ratio to setbacks to the more interesting, the standardized fields of, the zoning type and subtype. It has all of that here. So for anyone looking for granular information, if
That's
the
right.
use case involves understanding density and growth patterns, and you actually need this deeper attribution level, this is the data set for you.
This is the data set. This is what's going to give it all to you.
Yeah, so that's kind of a quick demo. This is the visualization piece to this data set on Esri's AGOL, but this is available through all of our other delivery methods. So much of this product's planning has been through our own learnings over the years. So we understand that use cases come in different shapes, sizes, and granularity. So there are some use
Yeah.
cases that require this deeper attribution. They also require the zoning polygons, which comes with this data set. It is a polygonal data set as an add-on to our premium parcels. However, we also know that there are use cases that need the higher level information about standardized zoning type and subtype. And because of that, we were actually able to add fewer attributes from this data set, just a handful of them, 4 of them, into our premium schema. Now, our premium schema, if you remember, and those who don't, we'll link our schema link here, but our premium schema already comes with our LBCS, the land classification fields, all the 5 dimensions and their descriptions. So it had one element to that land use already in it, and we were now able to augment that and complement it with standardized zoning type, subtype, the link back to the ordinance, and zoning ID. So if you are a user and if you are using our premium schema already, please make sure to update, and you should actually start seeing all of these fields flowing through already.
Yeah. Yeah. I did see a few questions coming in. I know that we saw a question about like why are we seeing so many in the demo that I had up, why are we seeing so many single family residential or residential areas in the
Land.
planned zoning color? And that's a fantastic question because it's a question that we were asking ourselves. And I went deep down the rabbit hole with this particular one. Our partners at Zoneomics, again, fantastic partners. If you haven't had opportunity to engage with them, they're great folks to work with. They educated us a lot on this, and what it comes down to is that the planned zoning type can fall into a lot of different how we think of land use categories, right? And the thing about zoning is it's zoning, it's ordinance, it's more legal. It's not so much kind of what you observe. And so single family residence can be a planned zoning type. And what it really means is a developer went to the zoning commission and said, we have a plan for this particular development. We want it to look like this. This is how we want to do it. And the zoning boards at the local level put some sort of special designation around it that said this is a planned area. So you will see that, and it can be confusing because planned can be things like universities, it can be things like hospitals, but you can also see like planned unit developments. It's the best example that I can think of where it's like we would normally think of it as mixed, right? We think of it as residential and commercial kind of mixed together, but to happen to be the development was we're gonna put something together, and it's an artifact of some urban planning methods. So that's the reason that you see that.
Cool. And then we have one more question. Do you have zoning change application data?
We don't have any of that information at this time. No, nor do we necessarily have a roadmap for it. But keep that feedback coming. We want to like this is our initial launch of this product. We're working very closely with our friends at Zoneomics, and so we do want that sort of feedback to say, hey, what's next on the product roadmap? So yeah, that's great.
Depending on which schema you currently have. If you have premium schema, you should see 4 of those zoning fields flowing through the API for you. If you are interested in looking into the standardized zoning, that will please do let us know. We can have a conversation and then we can enable that for you.